And we're here tonight for the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Calm weather until we get to the weekend. Then we've got two storm systems to deal with. So we're going to talk about both of them and try to figure out this mess one way or another. So stand by, everybody. The Joe and Joe Weather Podcast is next. And it's brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned at the top of the chat board, and it's also on the descriptor to this video. Tempest is an affiliate of the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Use the coupon code if you make a purchase of anything on the Tempest website, be it the weather station or any of the other wonderful gadgets and gizmos and even smart weather fashion. That coupon code is I want a weather station. And if you do, you will get...
You'll get 10% off, you lucky dog, you.
Isn't that just fabulous? Yes. Hi.
I'm just looking on YouTube, Joe, and already on YouTube I see videos. Monster snowstorm.
Oh, I make it stop. I have to tell you, I don't know if it's just because it's the first, I mean, it is just because it's the first one for most people, or is it the fact that it's the first one in 2 years for most people? Everybody's off the deep end. It's I don't know. It's just nauseating to me.
It's crazy.
It's snow. That's all it is. And I have to say, after going through everything today, I am becoming more and more convinced that this is going to be less and less of a problem when we get there. Because the upper air, and it's really funny. Somebody on Twitter pointed this out. It's usually when guidance is out like when all the models are keying in on something together 7 or 8 days in advance, it's unusual for it. Usually it happens or happens close to what's being advertised with whatever minor adjustments you have to have. Rarely do you have it where it starts to get weaker and weaker and weaker, and maybe this is one of those times. I'm gonna wait. I want to see at least another 2 cycles of runs, and that'll take us through midday tomorrow. But from what I saw today and what I saw late this afternoon, I'm starting to lean to the idea that there'll be some snow out of this, but as far as some of those amounts that were being thrown around by some of the models, just as late as yesterday and last night, I'm not so sure that that's going to happen.
Well, first of all, thank you to Bogey's Bees for the first hit on the tip jar tonight on Super Chats. And Bogey says, no, I'm not even going to attempt to do a Humphrey Bogart. I'm not going to attempt to do Bogey. But I will say that Bogey's Bee says, trending warmer and faster, looks just like a wave more than a wrapped up low. Well, actually, as I said last night, if you really, especially with marginally cold air over the Northeast, you really don't want a wrapped up low, because a wrapped up low more often than not in this type of scenario, you may start as snow, may even have a thump of snow, but eventually, because it's so wrapped up, it will eventually change everything over to just plain rain. You want a kind of you want kind of a wave, a flat wave that is not overly potent, that would not bring in warm air advection too quickly, and would allow the cold air, what there is of it,
right,
to maintain itself, to allow for some snow. But it is a fast system, Joe. It is a very progressive system.
It is now. It is now.
I go on social media and you see some folks are talking about could be more than a foot of snow. How could it? How could it if it's moving so quickly? Unless you're getting 6 inches of snow an hour.
Well, and the other part of this that's not playing out according to plan is the way the models are handling the high that is supposed to be over eastern Canada. It was modeled to sit there for about 2.5 days, just sort of spread out and just lay there and not move. But now it doesn't look like it's doing that. It's sliding out more to the east, and that does not help the cause, because as you said, when you have marginal cold air, you have to work with what you have. And if you don't, if you don't have at least a cold air source close by, you got a problem. And I think that's the case here. Now, inland spots will probably get some accumulating snow. Maybe even the coast will get something. But I mean, as far as unless something changes overnight and tomorrow, when the next model cycles come, I'm kind of leaning against it.
Give me sharing capabilities. This is us. I mean, I just want to show one example of this, of what I'm talking about here. And
well, no, don't get us into trouble now.
I'm not going to get anybody into trouble. It's just like crazy. And what we just said, we're saying that, we're talking about the inability perhaps of holding on to the cold air and allowing for, a lot of snow. But I mean, take a look at this. Can you see that, Joe, right in the middle of the share screen here?
Yeah.
Major northeast snowstorm more likely.
Oh, and that
more likely.
And that was today?
Yeah, let me see. Look at this. 6 to 12 inches, 12 to 18 inches.
Well, why not 18 to 24? I mean, if you're going to go, if you're going to go down that road, you might as well go whole hog. I mean,
incredible.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Well, the thing the thing that bothers me about it is well, first of all, the fact that you need to unshare and share again because you've disappeared, and so have I. But let's see if I can get you back. Hold on, folks. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Oh boy,
I just shared my whole screen for you.
Hold on.
You like that? That's my wallpaper, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Now you can undo it.
All right. Here we go. Ta-da.
No. Okay. Now we're back. I just don't like the fact that about what I don't like about it is that we could be saying absolutely nothing about this whatsoever, and somehow there'll be at least a handful of people that'll come on our doorsteps and on social media and say make us sound like we said it, and that's the thing that bugs me, because when I see that, I immediately say, well, you know what? Go back and read my posts and tell me where it says this. And it never does.
Right.
It never does.
Right. Well, and our mutual friend and colleague, Alan Casper, who for many years was on the airwaves in New York, the only real credible forecaster, synoptic meteorologist on New York television. And sometimes when we got into situations like what we're looking at right now, he used to say there are some forecasters who forecast with their heart and not with their head.
Right. Well,
and it's been so long since we've seen any significant snowfall in the immediate New York City metropolitan area that there are some who are saying, this is it. This is the one. Well, finally, and
well, we'll see. I mean, I'm not completely chucking and accumulating snow out the window, but I'm sort of backing away from. You got to back away from any idea.
Well, you got to back. I mean, it's 2 inches. I mean, we get 2 inches out of this, so 3 inches. We got more snow than we had all of last year at Central Park. That's a big deal, I guess. But I'm not. 8 to 12 inches, 12 to 18. No.
I know. And it's all going to get washed away by this major storm that's going to go to the Great Lakes. And what really kills me from a forecasting standpoint, Joe, is the fact that I think I saw the models showing this well over a week ago, maybe even longer, of showing this sort of really deep trough out at 100 West. And something major coming out of it. If it's something that's going to go to the Great Lakes, and it's got a 980 low, at St. Louis heading for Detroit, you can 7 days out, you can rest assured that there will be a 980 low at St. Louis the day of the storm that goes right to Detroit. I mean, it's hilarious. When they come to the East Coast, as far as the East Coast goes, they go in all different directions. They do all sorts of weird things. You think they're going to want to do one thing, and they do another. But when they're zooming toward the Great Lakes, or if they're zooming up the west side of the Appalachians, they zoom up the west side of the Appalachians without, no change, no chance, nothing. Uh,
Right.
welcome to everybody to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Good to have you here. Good to see everybody on the chat board. Uh, having good conversation, and those of you who are watching in the background, we welcome you as well. We're almost at 100 likes, Joe. You may get to ring the bell early, so if you do like the
Oh,
show, hit the like button because we love going over 100 likes. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn the notifications on. This way you don't miss us because we are on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 and the occasional Friday and Saturday if there's a storm involved. We'll see what happens when we get to Thursday, whether we're going to be on for Friday and Saturday. I mean, after all, Joe, if we're going to get an inch, we might as well cover it.
yeah. Like I said, they're so snow starved, so to speak, looking for that. And by the way, incidentally, ring a ding, 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 ding. 119 likes, Joe,
Okay.
already.
And oh, by the way, um, the phrase "the pattern change you want, the pattern change you get" may not necessarily be the same thing. Well, that seems to be what it looks like, at least for now, in the long range, because if the models are correct, this system that's going to be coming for Tuesday, which looks like quite the powerhouse, by the way, is not going to be a solo performance. There might be a couple of them that'll be headed there. Again, all part of the torturous process of getting to wherever it is we're going to be getting to. And at the moment, I'm not really too sure where that is. But got the satellite loop up, and of course we've got, there's a nice little storm that's forming offshore on the satellite. You can see the rotation and the signature of that storm system, that big curl that is moving straight to the east. We
Oh,
still
wait a minute. Hold on. Mr. Ruben Fairchild is doing his imitation of Pat Dolan, Mark Weiner, and Renee Price, Joe. He is just posted on the chat board. Joe and Joe should work this weekend to make up for all of their vacation days.
Oh, well,
Really?
Ruben was overwhelmed because he did win the Ruben Fairchild Award last night, and you know what? He may win the Ruben Fairchild Award again tonight.
I mean,
Uh,
I don't believe it. I mean, like, on the chat board, we take questions. People ask, what's going on. I think this guy, it's almost like he's our boss. He says, well, they should work this weekend to make up for all of the day. I mean, like, in other words, what that translates to me is we're not allowed to take any vacation days.
right, we should work this weekend. I should get a new set. Um, you know, anything else?
He'd be perfect for to play Scrooge
Anything
in
else? You
Christmas
know,
Carol. I mean, like,
if
he
hearts,
said, I suppose you want all of tomorrow off, right?
and naturally, right, and right, exactly, and naturally, be in earlier sooner than the next on the day after. Um, and
Anyway,
naturally, we're freelancers because Ruben doesn't pay health insurance.
that's
So,
right.
so that's it. All right. So anyway, we've got this one low that is out offshore, and of course that's moving out straight to the east. You've got a weak subtropical jet that's coming out of the Pacific into the Gulf of Mexico, which is setting up a second low. And actually, Joe, what's kind of interesting with this, I mean, in terms of how the system for the weekend is evolving, if you go back a few days, I mean, we could pull up model guidance that we're trying to bring this low up the coast and close enough up the coast that we were going to maybe see some rain or on Thursday, and this one is going to wind up going way south and east and underneath us and straight east, following in the path of that. And The energy for the weekend system is getting ready to come into some of it's already come into California. There's a storm off the coast of the Pacific, and that's driving energy into the Southwest. So all the players are here, but unfortunately, they may not be playing the game correctly as far as the East Coast is concerned. Now, on the radar tonight, we do actually have some heavy rains going on in central and central Texas, Dallas Fort Worth, for example, and also down the interstate, about halfway down toward Houston, and all of this is heading toward the northeast. Again, part of this weak Gulf low that is developing there. And then when we look out in the west, we've got bands of heavy rain into California, and as it moves into the eastern part of the state, it gets into the Sierra Nevadas. There's going to be some snow there, and we've got some rain going on up in the Pacific Northwest. The Let's do the snow. Okay, here's the probability of 2, and we have a little bit of activity. This takes us, by the way, to Friday night. Okay, Friday night. And you see areas here, and this is because we've got another upper trough that's coming through tomorrow night into Thursday. So there's some lake effect that'll be going on in southwest and north central New York. So we got 50% probability of at least 2. And on the Canada side as well, you see those areas of blue, all about 50%. Then you head out west, and you've got much more. Large areas of 50% or higher for at least 2 in parts of Colorado, northern New Mexico, back into Nevada, Utah, up into Idaho. The Sierra Nevadas also very active there. High probability of at least 2. And if I change it to 8, you see that the area does shrink, but at least in the Sierra Nevadas, we've got a 50% or greater area, actually is up as high as 70% in the Sierra Nevadas for at least 8, and then everybody else is mostly 20% or less in those few patchy places. And if we go into the east, should I even waste my time? One little circle there, Joe, not too far from Barnes Corners, Redfield, Watertown,
Yep.
where there's a 5% chance that they could see at least 8. But this was welcome today, if only because of the fact that we've barely had to use this long range map from WPC. Now, this was issued at 16 shortly before noon today. So I just checked to see if they had updated, and they hadn't updated it. But when they did the one at noon, they did expand. The blue is 50 to 70% for at least, let's round number this, and let's just say 3, okay? They use a quarter of an inch of liquid equivalent of snow and sleet. Okay, let's just see a few inches. So let's say 2 to 3 inches. The probability for 2 to 3. So in that light blue, that's 50 to 70%. So that covers a good chunk of Pennsylvania, northwest New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, west of the Hudson, and on up through the Catskills, and also the Poconos, down into western Maryland, the western half of Maryland, and into West Virginia and northwestern Virginia, with those red patches indicating a 90% chance. And this is from Saturday. This ends for the period ending 7 a.m. Sunday. And if I switch to the next day, which would be Sunday into Monday, it shifts to, if it would just stay there, which it doesn't want to do, it's blink. There it goes. Around the Boston area, we've got a 50% or greater chance for at least a few inches there, and in eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and on up into southeastern Mass, except out in the Cape where it's about 10 to 30. Yeah, it might be a few, Joe. I don't know how much more than a few, but it might be a few.
Well, the red area that you had over western Maryland no doubt included Garrett County, which is a very elevated area, probably the most elevated area in the state of Maryland. And so, if any place in Maryland is going to get hit with a significant, if not perhaps substantial snow, and when I talk about substantial, I'm talking about 6 or more inches, that would be the place, would be Garrett County.
Right.
And I'm not sure where that red zone in Pennsylvania would be exactly, but you can see it's right along the Appalachians. So you go high enough, get enough elevation, and you're probably going to get a pretty good shot at a pretty good snowfall come this weekend.
And that 50% line extends down into western North Carolina, not quite all the way down, 10 to 30 gets down to the Georgia state line, but about halfway up, say from Asheville northward, we're seeing this. But yeah, this is going to be a tough sell from what I saw today as far as I'm concerned. Now, WPC's rainfall forecast. Now, this goes through Tuesday night. So you've got two systems baked in the cake here, and it doesn't completely cover everything with the second system, which would be for later Tuesday and overnight Tuesday night. But they've got 2 inches plus rainfalls already up to New York City, 2.5 to the southern half of New Jersey, 3 inches plus from the western half of North Carolina all the way down to the Gulf Coast and all the way west to Louisiana, with some patches of that orange area there. That's 5 inches that they're indicating in western North Carolina, western South Carolina, southwest North Carolina, and northeast Georgia. So I'm kind of on that edge of 3 to maybe 5 inches of rain according to WPC. So we'll see about that. Because down
Let's again stress. Let's again stress. This is not one singular storm. This is the combination of two storms: the one over the weekend and the one that comes about 3 days later.
correct.
Up in our zone. So
Correct. And in the west, we're seeing rainfall in California, the heavier rains of 1 inch plus from, let's say about maybe halfway up between San Diego and San Francisco, then going all the way up to the Pacific Northwest where you start to get, many inches there. Nothing much in the plains. The western lakes are quiet for now, but this area here next Tuesday night, Wednesday, probably going to be bearing down for a blizzard if the models verify, and of course they will because it's in the Midwest and it's not on the East Coast, but that's just the way life works out. So I want to just kind of point out a couple of changes here in terms of what the models did. I'm going to go back to yesterday. Let's go back to the 12Z run yesterday. And in terms of the upper air structure of what we're dealing with, and this was the weekend, we had these upper air systems that went by, and of course, a lot of folks were complaining about the fact that it was cloudy much of the time. The last trough is moved off today, and now you can see there's a short wave here, this little, D shape kind of that's moving in the flow. This is a low that's going to start forming in the Western Gulf, and that's going to be the next one that's going to run up off the southeast coast and move east. And you see this trough and cutoff low coming into California, and the northern part of the jet is there, which is keeping things seasonal, I would say. This first trough goes out. It's very broad, doesn't really sharpen. Here comes the next one. You see this cutoff low that moves into Texas and then swings towards the East Coast. You have the trough that actually goes negative and cuts off, a small cutoff low there off North Carolina. Okay, this is what it looks like. This is what it looked like yesterday. And, kind of a little vigorous upper low there, nice little negatively tilted trough. And by the way, at this point, there's your big system coming into another big system comes into the west, and that's the setup for next Tuesday. But when I switch this over to the surface, which I will do as soon as I can get my mouse back, there you go. So we'll switch this over to the surface. This is where we had a really kind of wrapped up storm that was sitting off the Virginia coast. In fact, yesterday's 12Z model was keeping most of the precip to the south. It brought it back on the next run, so I'll go to the 18Z just to give you an idea here. On the next run, it came further north and brought the snow back and had snow for all of New Jersey, most of northern Virginia, Maryland, heavy snow, that dark blue snow there. And then, of course, the low pulls out to the east. You see that high in Quebec just kind of sitting there, okay? And then, of course, here comes the setup with the next storm going up into the Great Lakes, wrapped up like an animal as it heads up to the northeast, and this would be again for later next Tuesday and Tuesday night. Now, let's switch over to today's run, and we'll do the same thing. I'm going to bring up the upper air for today's run. And you're going to notice an important difference in how this first system comes out and what it looks like, because it don't look like that. Okay? Um, so here's your trough. This is on Saturday, moving across Texas. Right off the bat, there's no cutoff low there. It's a much weaker looking feature here. It's just sort of this, kind of gentle looking upper trough that's moving east. You have the Canada flow and a bit of a ridge here. So, there's some sort of high that's sitting up in Quebec there. Here's more energy that's coming into the Pacific Northwest. But this lead trough, as it moves eastward now, where is it, Joe? Do you see it? Can you find it?
No, I don't.
I mean, look at this. You went from a wrapped up, too close, cut off low in off the Virginia coast to now is just a short wave that is moving northeastward and just moving along. And you know what? As you said, if now if you have a wrapped up low, you got to have everything else right in terms of the cold air and all the rest of it. In order to, to pull off a big snowstorm, and you could pull one off with a wrapped up low if everything else is right. And in this situation, you've got this flat feature now that's coming out, and you'd think, okay, well, now that it's flatter, we won't have to worry about maybe warmer air coming in off the 49-degree ocean. But the problem is, up here in eastern Canada, is the fact that that upper ridge, instead of holding, is now moved out further to the east. So your cold air source never really has a chance to get at least somewhat wedged in down from New England down to into say Pennsylvania and maybe even to the mountains of Virginia and West Virginia. It's a totally flat system. I wonder whether the second system, this powerhouse that's coming into the west, is kind of kind of limiting it to some degree. Not impossible. There's also some kind of shortwave now that's near James Bay that's over the top that is moving along, and that's forcing that ridge to move out to the east. So right off the bat, the upper air is different. It's less impressive. It's flatter. And since I have this up, as we roll this along, here's the next system, this wrapped up animal that moves into Oklahoma and then lifts up negatively tilted as it phases with a system coming down from Canada and heads toward the Great Lakes. And that's what's going to produce a big storm in the lakes, and it's going to bring us probably a windswept heavy rain later Tuesday night into Wednesday. But do
you think it might? Do you think initially that Tuesday system might start as a little bit of wet snow?
It's possible. I think it's possible that there might be a little bit on the front end. But how long can it last when you're on your way to 60?
Right.
Really. And now I'll bring the surface map up because this is, and it's not just this model. I mean, the European was not that, was no great shakes either. And we could check the 18C European to see if we can get any clues. Again, I want to see the next run and the next two runs because if it looks like this tomorrow, I'll be putting a snow map up, but it won't be much of a snow map. So here's our system for Thursday. Goodbye. It goes out. Now here comes the low. I mean, you could already see, Joe, it had a 980, 988 low. Now it's 1,005, and it's there, it's there near Chesapeake Bay or the southern Delmarva. There's a little bit of snow on the north end, but if you're down in Virginia, West Virginia, this was supposed to really blossom out because of cold air. And it's not because the high now is pinned in eastern Quebec, almost into Labrador, and there's just not enough. And it goes out underneath us, but whatever we squeeze out of it, we squeeze out of it, and then that goes by. And now, as we move through, and by the way, here's another thing. I mean, it's in here probably late. It comes in during the mid and late afternoon on Saturday. It is long gone by Sunday morning.
Right. Right. Well, there may be some spotty, flurries around that may linger for, I mean, those would leave dibbly squat in terms of any kind of additional accumulation or whatever. But yeah, the main throes of this is going to be while most are in bed, or I hope they'll be in bed Saturday night. Well, it's a Saturday night. A lot of people, I'm sure, already have plans for Saturday night. to go someplace. But if you are among those, just be careful because rain, snow, whatever, roads are going to be a little bit on the slick side with this system Saturday night.
Now, by the way, so I have the pivotal weather. This is the GFS snowfall forecast off the 18Z. And what it did was basically, since it grinds out between 3/4 of an inch of liquid, okay, um, and it has a 10-to-1 ratio, assuming that every drop falls as snow and every snowflake sticks, it actually gave 10 inches to Yonkers, 10 inches to New York City, 6 to Brentwood, 9.9 to Brightwater in New Jersey, Trenton 10.5, 10.9 for Philadelphia, 2.5 to Wilmington. Nothing on the Jersey Shore, by the way. From southern Monmouth County southward, it's nothing. It's just all rain there. And the amounts, the heavier amounts into northwest Jersey, much of eastern PA, the Hudson Valley. I'm going to tell you right now, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, this ain't happening, okay? You're not going to have every snowflake, everything
No,
fall
don't
as
say
snow.
that because I actually was getting ready for my sales pitch for the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes, exactly. This ain't happening. I will show you though. I'll show you the ensemble. I've been trying. I'm always when I'm doing my forecasting and everything else. Sometimes I sort of say, well, let me take a look at something I never really looked at before. So on the ensembles, the GFS ensembles this evening, and I'm going to bring up the snowfall forecast off the ensembles. Okay, and I've been watching this during the last 3 or 4 runs. Now that it's getting closer, the numbers are kind of making a bit more sense. You'll notice on the screen here you see on the map, they're all on the low side. New York City 1.9, Brentwood.
What happened to the 10 inches?
Well, this is the ensembles now, so they've got all the members are in there. So when you average it all out, I mean it's basically a 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inch event off the ensembles. Now, granted, some of the ensembles are probably not giving you any snow, and then some of the members are giving you a foot plus. So when you do all the math, you're going to come out with these low numbers. But this sort of tells me that there's probably more members than not that are going more on the low end. And and actually, I was thinking today, if I had to draw a forecast snow map, I might draw something like this, where you cover for maybe something along the coast and have some higher amounts inland, but you certainly don't have amounts that are off the wall like the operational run has, because the operational run has double and triple these amounts, and I just don't think that that's going to happen.
No, but it's the same old story, and again, you're working off of the 18Z, an intermediate run.
Well, this is the 18Z ensembles. You want to look at the 12Z? We can look at the 12Z, and the 12Z is going to tell you almost the same story.
The 12Z operational?
The 12Z ensembles. Actually, the 12Z ensembles are a little bit less. 1 inch in New York City, 2.5 in Islip, 2.5 in 2 3/4 in Brightwater, New Jersey, 1.3 for Trenton, 1.9 for Philadelphia. So they were even less. So you got some 4 and 5 inch amounts in Northwest New Jersey, Middletown, Poughkeepsie, okay, and then through Connecticut and into Massachusetts, you've got some 4 and 5 and even a couple of 6-inch amounts. But the ensembles, the ensembles here are telling you that if they're giving you 1/10 of what the operational is, there's something's not right. And I feel more comfortable looking at this as a possible outcome as opposed to what the operational run showed.
I agree, and you could probably tomorrow with the NAM throwing its hat into the ring, you could probably start looking at the NAM, because that'll take you up to Saturday evening, the beginning of Saturday evening, just to get an idea of what that model is suggesting. But again, as I said yesterday, I would prefer to wait until, you want something more definitive, wait until Thursday,
Yes.
12Z Thursday, And by then, that should be able to tell you, not with absolute certainty or surety, but by then you should be able to get a very, very good idea what the models are picking up on, and what we may very well see and what we may very well get.
The European ensembles, this is the 18Z, has 4 for New York City, 3.5 for Islip, three just under 4 in Trenton and Philadelphia, 5 for Middletown and Poughkeepsie, 5-inch plus amounts in Connecticut, some 6-inch amounts in Massachusetts. The European, it's actually a little bit higher. This was the 18Z, the 12Z European, which gave very little, I think, on the operational, as I remember. But on the ensembles, the ensembles on the European were more aggressive. Again, I'm going to wait till tomorrow to figure it out. Maybe, there's always that chance. And models have done this before where, we get to within 4, like that 5-day window at the very beginning of that 5-day window, and suddenly it does something that, lessens it or takes it away, and then winds up bringing it back on the next, after a couple of runs, it starts to bring it back. I'd be shocked if that happened, but I'm going to leave that possibility open before, putting down whatever kind of snowfall forecast that I'm going to go with. And yeah, I mean that's sort of how I feel about it.
Yeah. So basically, folks, it's interesting. We're trying to do our best to give you what our honest opinion is for this coming weekend. We are not yelling and screaming as some social media sites are that this is going to be a massive winter storm. And as we also have been saying, regardless of what we get over the weekend, it's pretty well going to be going bye-bye very quickly, because the next system behind this weekend system on Tuesday is going to pretty much wash it all away.
And by the way, I mean, if this is right on the GFS and on the European, that first high, and this wasn't supposed to happen. You see that low up in northern Minnesota? That's screwing this up, because that's causing this first high to move out. Because if we look at earlier runs, that high was more spread out east-west, and there was no real low there. But apparently there's a short wave there with a low, forces that high out. A new high builds in, and this one builds up into the 1040s when it gets up into Quebec. And now here comes this low, which the GFS has a 982 low there, or 980 low near Tulsa. And then it goes towards St. Louis. I mean, this is really just an absolute animal. Look how tight that gradient gets for Tuesday night. I mean, there's a little front end stuff, as you mentioned. The low goes up into Michigan, into central Michigan, and there's severe weather that's probable, in the southeast. There might be some severe weather on Saturday in the Gulf states, and then in the southeast on I'm sorry, not Saturday, on Monday. And then on Tuesday, there might be some severe weather in the southeast with this. You can see all that rain that's being generated. But my God, the gradient is it's every bit as tight as it was a couple of weeks ago in that big rain and windstorm that we had, if not tighter.
Right. And by the way, speaking of the severe weather, we haven't looked at SPC yet, have we?
No, but I'll bring that up in a second. I just want to show everybody. I want to go back to the European. This is the European 12Z. This was the 12Z snowfall map. I want to go to the wind map for that next system. That's the 10-meter wind. So let's go to. Let's see. So that would be 168. 180. I'm going to change this. Let me just change this to the loops. It'll make it easier for me to move the map around. Okay. By the way, we're 14 likes shy of 200, which would be really nice.
All right. Well, as I've always said,
All right. So here's. I'm sorry, Joe. Here's the European. Today, this is 7 a.m. Wednesday morning, okay? So let me just go back one. This is at 1 a.m. It's 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts, all of New Jersey, Long Island, parts of the Hudson Valley where it's not 40 to 50, it's every bit of 30 to 40. And then at Wednesday morning, Joe, they've got 79 mile an hour wind gusts for Brentwood, 73 for Bridgeport, 68 for Waterbury, Connecticut, 64 for New York City, 63 for Yonkers, 51 at Poughkeepsie, Paul Neissig, 51 at Trenton, 50 at Philadelphia, 61 at Toms River. I mean, it really this we're gonna blow away if this is correct.
Well, it's not going to be correct. We've already seen a few of these type of systems that well in advance the
Right.
models have,
Knock it down by 10 or 15%. It's still 50 to 60.
It's going to be it'll be windy. I'm not sure if we're going to be reaching these extremes, but it could very well be that we'll be seeing wind warnings or maybe even high wind warnings. This is going to be like one of those sou'easters or sou'westers.
Right.
There's no such a term, but you get the idea. So that is why it's going to rain with the southerly winds as strong as this. My God, you're absolutely right. When you made the allusion to temperatures up near 60, near the coastal plain, you'll be near 60 with these kind of winds midweek next week.
Yeah. I'm looking at the 2-meter temperatures here by Wednesday morning because all the temperatures rise Tuesday night. 58 in New York City, 57 at Brentwood, 55 at Bridgeport, 56 at Yonkers. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the model's showing upper 50s, so upper 50s and low 60s, certainly not out of the question. By the way, you should ring the bell again because we went to 200 likes.
Oh, lovely. And I'll do that. See, my counter, unless I keep updating my YouTube,
right.
I mean, the actual number of people who are watching, that changes, but the likes do not change unless I update constantly. Ring-a-ding-a-ding. Somebody on the chat board, I forgot who, said, don't ring that bell again until Philadelphia gets a significant snowfall. And if that were the case, I may have to be waiting until next year for that to happen.
Right. And so, by the way, if anybody tells you the pattern didn't change, oh boy, did it, because this is nothing like what we had in December. It's just that pattern change doesn't guarantee you're going to get what you want in terms of where the troughs are. And right now, I mean, as of early next week, the trough axis is at 95 to 100 west. It's almost in the middle of the U.S. And then that lifts out. More energy drops into California, and guess what? Another big storm potentially is one actually rides out ahead, and then yet another one that lifts up towards the Great Lakes. So maybe once that last one plays out, because you do have blocking that's developing up in Greenland and across the Arctic, maybe at that point you're finally going to shift the trough out of the west and into the east. But there's still more work to do here as far as getting this pattern, which no doubt is very dynamic. It's just dynamic in the west and not in the, for snow and winter weather. It's going to be all in the western half of the U.S. and around the Great Lakes, and not so much in the east, except for whatever happens here on later Saturday into Sunday. But this is again, you're not guaranteed anything. In the world of weather, when the pattern changes, it changes, but it just may not change to the way you want it to change.
Right. Be careful what you wish for,
because you may get it real soon.
You may get it, indeed.
Oh yeah, you wanted to see SPC, and SPC. Hang on one second, Joe. Hold on, just going to get the watches and warnings up here, because we're starting to get the first winter weather advisories in Nevada, northern Arizona, winter storm watches up in northern New Mexico, winter storm warnings in the Sierra Nevadas and parts of northern California as well. The rest of the country is mostly on the quiet side. And SPC, we always know when they got it in the long range, it usually means to pay attention, and they actually have it out at day 7. They have a 15% in day 7, which would be a slight risk for pretty much all of the Gulf Coast from Texas to the Florida Panhandle in that zone. And I think maybe tomorrow they might have on their day set. Well, this will be day 6, and then the new day 7. I'm thinking, don't be shocked if you see a risk area for the southeast, from North Carolina down to Georgia, and into Florida with that next storm system and cold front that's going to be approaching.
Yep, it's going to be active, no question about that. And that's why I wanted to see what SPC was suggesting. Very unusual to see them to stick their neck out as far as day 7 to put a forecast up for possible severe weather. But, this is a pattern that certainly is worthy of them doing that. And this is not too surprising.
Nope, not at all. Okay, so let's see. How about we do a little bit of Briller Jeopardy? Shall we?
Surely.
Yeah. Hold on, let me find it. Gotta dig it up here. There we go. Oh, nice size audience tonight. We love it when we have a crowd. And I'm dressed in orange. I look like a bloated citrus fruit. Anyway, so tonight's Briller Jeopardy. What's the average high temperature in January in these cities? Okay, and we are going to start with. We're going to start
By the way, the fact that we have all of these people watching us shows that we are, in many ways, still, for some at least, relevant.
We're loved.
We're
loved.
Yeah, I mean, when they show you the door in television and say, "That's it, folks, it's all over. It's you're done. Go home," or whatever, and you say to yourself, "Now what are we going to do?" And thankfully, we have YouTube, where we have all of you to watch us and appreciate us and take advantage of 80 plus years of forecasting knowledge and commentary from us. All I could say is just thank you, one and all, for tuning in and watching.
Yes,
If you weren't doing this, if we had like 10 people watching us each night, or even like 30 or 40 people watching us each night, I don't know about you, Joe. I'd say, the heck with it. We've had the last couple of nights, we had like 400 plus people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to get even bigger as we get closer to this event later on in the week.
Well, we'll see. Robert Lomnicki hits the tip jar. Thank you, Robert. Most appreciated. And Jacksonville, Florida is the first city tonight, Joe. Jacksonville, Florida, the average high for the month of January.
All right. I'm just making a note here of Robert Lomnicki on our hit list tonight. Jacksonville, Florida. High temperature?
Yes.
High temperature. Oh, Jacksonville. How about 69?
How about 69? No, it's a little too high, Joe, but on the chat board with the guesses, Chuck Cardillo, Rich Rothmansky hitting it, and Frank Scalera all getting it correct at 66. And Patrick Darcy also at 66. The next is Las Vegas.
Lost wages?
Lost wages. Las Vegas.
Oh, what could it possibly be? And I've been to Las Vegas, but I've been there in the summer, and that can be a killer diller. High temperature in Las Vegas. How about 77?
Oh God, Joe, no.
Did the skier go off the cliff?
No, but he's dangling. He's dangling. All right, so for Las Vegas, Izzy D says 61. Alan Rupa, you got it. 59. And Jason Kaplan, you're close at 58. 59 was it. And Brandon Doherty, thank you for hitting Super Chat. And we appreciate your kind words, too. Appreciate it very much. Okay, so the next is, let me put it on the board, people. Hold on. Um, Louisville, Louisville,
Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. No cheating, people. Um,
There's an old joke about Louisville. How do for the capital of Kentucky, how do you pronounce it? Louisville or Louisville?
it's Louisville.
No, it's Frankfurt.
It's Frankfurt. Yes. Okay, that's right.
Ta-da!
Uh-huh. All right.
So
Louisville.
Louisville. Um, how about? No, it's so far off with Las Vegas. How about 42?
Well, you're closer. You're closer. Even closer was John Melander and Trish Sparacchio at 45, but Izzy D gets it this time at 44. 44. All right, Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And I'm sure all of you Mary Richards fans out there, or Joe is not a Mary Richards fan. He's a
Sue Ann Nivens fan.
Sue Ann Nivens fan.
I was a Mary Richards fan, but I loved Sue Ann Nivens.
Um,
I love vile characters.
have to be, well, certainly have to be colder than what we just said for Louisville. I would probably even suspect it'd be sub-freezing. A lot of people on the chat board down in the 20s, except for Rick B, who says 65. I don't know why. How about 23?
Very close. You know, you're at the edge of that cliff, so you're probably like you're calling numbers that are very close to keep you from falling off. Very close. Somebody had it here. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, here it is. Was it? Oh, now I lost it again. Um, okay. Christinapedia said 25. You're very close. Glenn Thompson 22, not quite as close. Where is it? I just had it here. Oh, Jason Kaplan. Jason Kaplan gets it at 24. 24. Patrick Darcy 25 is among all the other first runner-ups tonight for Minneapolis, and Patrick Darcy then went down to 24. There you go. Okay, and the last one, of course, is New York City, Central Park.
Oh well, that's relatively easy. It's got to be, unless I'm off with the 30-year.
Yeah, because it's the new 30 years, so it might have gone up a little. There's a hint.
I'll say 30. I'll say 39.
You'll say 39.
Yes.
Izzy D says 38. Patrick Darcy said 32, but Frank Scalera and James H getting it at 40.
You got to 40?
40.
In January, a high temperature of 40. Yeah.
Well, for the average for the month, yeah, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, here's a bonus: Barrow, Alaska.
Oh God. Where's our friend who's up in?
Alfred Phillips hasn't been on. Well, he's a 24-hour night now, so who knows if he's asleep or not. Barrow, Alaska.
Well, I would have to say it would be either near or I'll even go below zero. We had Fairbanks just the other day, didn't we?
Right. It was -1.
Yeah, yeah. But Barrow's like even further north. How about 5 below for a high January?
Well, I will say this, Joe. You were at the edge of the cliff after Las Vegas, and you did not fall off. Okay.
Oh, lovely.
So you're again very, very close. You maybe have 1 foot now dangling off, but you're still holding on. All right. So Rich Rothmansky and John Melanders is +6. You should have gone with Rich Rothmansky and said -6 because -6 is the correct answer. Ruben Fairchild says, this game is rigged. I got 2 answers correct and nothing. Where's the losing horn for the Price is Right? No fair. All right, the chat board runs really fast, Ruben Fairchild. I can't always see what everybody puts. So I'm just trying to get a view of as many people as possible. But I did see that you got one of the other ones correct. So we will will take away one of the Mr. Reuben Fairchild Awards for humanitarian purposes. Okay, so I hope that makes you feel better because you're leaving me in tears. Anyway,
Tom Contino on the chat board. Tom Contino says that he's hoping after the inevitable sale. I don't even know whether or not there is going to be a sale.
A sale of what?
Of News 12. He says he's hoping after the inevitable sale that I will come back to News 12. Tom, ain't happening.
None of us
not going back.
Why would we want to come back?
If you had asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said yeah. But you know what? The heck with it. I'm retired now.
No, if they'd asked me 4 years ago, I would have said no then. I said no now, and that's the end of that.
And that's it.
No, I can't. Every time I watch, every time what little I do watch, but whenever I turn on the TV set and see what I see. In terms, what was the story I saw tonight on the news as I was flipping? I happened to pass by. It was a story about smiling being good for your health. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they put on a newscast. It's all about smiling. Oh God.
We need the late Dr. Max Gomez to do stories like that.
Yes.
260 likes, Joe.
Very good. We're very happy. Thank you. Those of you who hit the like button tonight, we love it, and we appreciate that you like the show. And
did I miss anybody? Did I miss anybody on the chat? Super chat hit Bogies Bees, Robert Lumnicki, and Brandon Doherty. Thank you to the three of you for hitting super chat tonight. I think I got all of them tonight.
Yep. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the description to this podcast. Use the coupon code I want a weather station, because if you do, you'll get
10% off.
And if it turns out we get no snow, that's not it. There she is. If it turns out we get no snow, I'm bringing out Mrs. Bundy this weekend.
Oh, God, there she is.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. Let's see what the overnight models do, and we'll see if we can bring this to a conclusion tomorrow with regards to having some sense of certitude. We probably won't have complete certitude, but we'll have maybe some to help us along to get us to the weekend. Well, maybe the models will change during the overnight. It does happen every once in a while.
Yes, it
does. Have a great night. Thanks for being here, and we will see you tomorrow. Nighty-night.
Night-night, folks.